You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back. Joining me now, Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin. Good to see you.
Good to see you,
Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
All right, your first year in office is officially under the belt. I'm going to keep you on a tight time frame today, so I know you like to be on a tight time leash here. So
let's see, that's a 20-minute question.
90 seconds or less. What do you point to as your most major accomplishments here?
Well, first of all, I remember coming on the show and talking about how I wanted the office to reflect the culture that I believe in, which is collaboration and folks working together and excellence and all that. And I think we've achieved that. I'm really proud of the team that we've put together. We added a general counsel in the mix, which I think has really helped coordinate between divisions. We've had some big announcements. As you know, we're moving.
Your big historic building downtown?
Yeah, so instead of renting for decades and decades and decades, we're going to own. That's better for taxpayers. And in the process, we're renovating one of the old, great buildings in Little Rock that was designed by Mr. Mann.
Who designed the state capitol.
Yeah. Exactly. Designed the state capitol. And so we're really proud of the historic preservation there. And also, we have made human trafficking a priority. Worked a lot on that, have a good partnership with law enforcement on that. We've pledged $50 million from opioid funds to Arkansas Children's Hospital to create a state-of-the-art national center for opioid research. So there's a lot of different things that we've done that I'm proud of. Look, we worked hand in glove with the legislature very cooperatively to make sure that the laws that were going through, particularly the ones that were being signed into law, were going to withstand scrutiny in the courts. And that's a lot of prevention on the front end to make sure that when things are challenged, they're strongest. So I feel really good about the first year.
That and a bunch of litigation also. So let's turn our attention to some of that.
We've got litigation, yes, we are.
Before we get there, let's talk first about the ballot proposal process. This has been a bunch of headlines in the last few weeks. There's a lot of activity of people submitting ballot title proposals.
Lots and lots and lots.
I want you to explain from your perspective, you feel like there has been maybe some miscommunication, some misinformation, some lack of understanding as to how that process works. So explain to me what you think is not being perceived generally.
So I've seen some of the comments that people have made either in the press or wherever. I would say that 99% of the comments that I've read about the process are just wrong. They're misinformed, mistaken. I guess some of them are.
How so? Give me one example.
Well, because the sort of safe, warm refuge of a lazy mind is just to say, well, Tim's a partisan, he picks what he wants. But basically, the implication is that an AG accepts the ballot proposals they like, and they reject the ones they don't like. Well, the problem with that is the facts don't bear that out. I mean, the process is one that's been in place for 80 years. There's only a couple of years where we had a different process.
And we changed back to it.
And we changed back. The Supreme Court said the other process was unconstitutional, the way it was working. And let me say this. Had we not pushed, I personally pushed, legislators and Representative David Ray, carried the bill, we wouldn't have gotten an unconstitutional process off the books, which had only been on the books for a couple of years.
Do you think that the process now works? Do you think
it works fabulously.
But do you think it's a lot of people would say that it doesn't because
that's the whole point, though. I'd say a lot of people. I'm not sure most people are following this. A
lot of people that are involved in these ballot proposals.
I'll tell you they're wrong. And here's why they're wrong. So here's the way the process works. First of all, you start out with the concept that you're going to change the law for 3.3 million people without going through the legislature. You're going to go straight to the voter. So the process works for the people proposing a ballot measure. Why? Because the worst thing that could happen to them is if they get all the way through the process and then it's challenged in court and they lose because it was misleading, for example. So what we're doing is we're actually a filter to make sure that it meets the standard. And let me tell you quickly.
It's still just an opinion, though. I mean, you're rendering an opinion. It's not the final judgment. The courts are going to be the final.
That's exactly right. But we are applying. First of all, we have very experienced people. But let me just tell you how the process works. So let's say that John or Susie have a proposal. They bring it to the second floor or they mail it or whatever into my office. No one calls me and says, hey, we just got this in. How do you want it to go? That doesn't happen. The opinions division receives it. They write the opinion on it. It goes through review for our general counsel's office. And I'm the very last one to see it. And so I brought an example. So this is one from the 9th of January where someone actually sent it up to me they say, for your review, here's a ballot measure. All of these people reviewed it, edited, and approved the attached draft. And so here's my response.
P.S. How do you want us to do it?
Yeah, right. So my response, it was sent at 2:21.
Okay.
2:31, I've looked at it. I just replied, great work, approved. Okay. So the bottom line is the process is made to work through the career attorneys, many of which have worked for numerous AGs. We've had over 100 opinions in the last year, and I've changed the outcome on 0. 0. And let me just say this. I've rejected proposals that I agree with personally. I have accepted proposals that I strongly disagree with. Yeah. Remember the learns?
So you think the process works?
There's no question the process works. Here's the thing.
But it's still one office that gets to make the decision on all this.
Yes, and it's the appropriate office.
Okay.
Right. But let me just say this. I've heard some people who get frustrated. They're usually the people who got rejected.
Right.
I have seen 0 evidence that there's anything wrong with the process. There's a time limit. It must be done in 10 days. When people want to meet, let me tell you this. Some people are very kind. Some people are total jerks. We meet with them either way. And we've met with a lot of the latter, or at least we've been willing to. So this process, I'll say this. I asked my head of opinions, who's worked for 3 attorneys general, and I said, hey, has anyone ever been this transparent about the process, showing emails, explaining? He says, never, not even close. So look, it's a very transparent process, and it works.
Is there anything else you can do to alleviate the frustration that some of the folks feel? Are there changes that you think you could make to make that a better process?
No, and look, I think some of it is posturing in the press. I really do. I think a lot of it, it's easy to say, well, he's wrong, he just didn't like it. I get it, that's easy, but that's not a thinking person's answer. There are some groups who have said, we appreciate your corrections, we're going to fix them, and you know what? Those folks are on the path to approval.
Yep.
So look, some of the people complaining are the most educated in the process because they've been proposing them for years. So I do think a lot of this is posturing. But look, why did I want this back, even though it makes people angry, some people? Because it's the appropriate place.
Yeah.
If I were being political, I would have never wanted this back. Because as
because you might have wanted to be able to control it.
No. As one former AG told me, it's a thankless part of the job because no matter what you do, you make people angry.
All right, I got to take a commercial break. I want to talk about a lot of other stuff that's going on in your office. We're with Attorney General Tim Griffin. I'm Roby Brock. We're back with more Capitol View right after this.
Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back. We're with Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin. Real quick to wrap up on what we were talking about before the break here. You have to defend any potential lawsuit that may come on some of these ballot issues. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to explain why that is important.
So the beauty of the current process is if we say our opinion is it's not misleading, and it ends up getting challenged in court down the road after signatures and it's become the law or whatever, we're going to defend it because we agree that it's not misleading because we've said that in the certification process. The other way that it benefits Arkansans, you walk into a voting booth, you don't have much time. We're making sure that it is as succinct, as clear as possible, as required by the law. But yeah, we're making sure that it's strong so that if it's in court, we have no problem defending it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different moving parts here, and I know it's frustrating because I hear and read the frustration, but I would just say this. When things are approved by my office that I personally reject, personally don't like, that's Exhibit A, that it's not political. And that happens a lot. For example, the lowering of taxes on the feminine products, I'm all for lowering taxes. But I had to reject that at first until that was made right, and then we accepted it.
All right, let's move on. There are some lawsuits moving through related to the Board of Corrections, and then I think you guys have countersued that the Board of Corrections has not followed the FOI law. I don't think you can speak to a lot of those measures because they are still before the court right now. I'm going to give you a chance to explain why you can't go deep into detail on that out of, I guess, following judicial and legal precedent.
Well, first of all, you would fall asleep if we went too deep into it.
It may already be asleep, Tim, well, so come on.
You may be asleep. Yes, so there are 2 lawsuits, and there have been a lot of stuff in the press on this. I'll try to make it as clear as possible without getting into the weeds. There are 2 lawsuits. In one lawsuit, we are defending the law and the state.
This is the Board of Corrections saying that the 2 acts passed in the legislature are in violation of Amendment 33. You're defending the state on that.
Right. We're all familiar with my constitutional duty, and we're doing that there. That is one suit. The other suit we filed because the board is in violation of the Freedom of Information Act. We are defending the Freedom of Information Act for Arkansans, and there's a second part of that that relates to the board hiring special counsel without following the procedure that is specifically laid out in the law that is routinely followed by many, many others.
So I know you can't speak on those because they are still pending, but let me ask you this, regardless of the decisions on either one of those cases right there, do you think, win or lose on your end, do you think that those go to the Supreme Court eventually for a decision-making process? Do you think that would get appealed all the way up?
That would be the normal path.
Yep. All right. There was a letter from Lee Watson, who is on the Board of Corrections, that you did respond to this week. I feel like this is fair game to ask. He basically said the board wants to solve this problem with prison overcrowding. I think you have been on the record as saying you want to deal with it. The governor's been on the record saying she wants to deal with it. Why can't everybody get in the room and hammer out I don't think there's a policy discrepancy here. I think that there are on some issues, but not on prison beds. I think it's a funding issue is what it is. Why are we not having the conversation as Mr. Watson has suggested?
Yeah, well, I did see the letter. First of all, just as you know, I'm not the governor.
Sure.
And there's a lot that...
But you're a leader in this debate.
Sure. Well, let me be really clear about something, and this is really important. One board member acting individually with a letter is just that board member's view.
Right.
If the board only has power and should only act as a board, not as an individual. So one individual member having a view, that's great, but what needs to happen is the board has to, the majority of the board has to agree on a path forward. But the first thing that I would say is, look, if you want to show good faith, the board needs to quit violating the law. It's not good faith to say, we'll do this, but we'll keep violating the law. So I won't get into all the details, but...
What do you think that they're doing to violate the law?
Well, we have a lawsuit over that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
That's your argument, though. I just want to make sure there's nothing more to it than that.
Yeah, I think it's...
But nonetheless, to solve this problem, I still feel like...
Look, I'm all for people talking. No, look, people talking and finding solutions, that's a great thing. Also, following the law people talking is a great thing, although not required. Following the law is actually required.
I think Watson's letter, though, speaks to the fact that we can still argue over these legal disagreements, but we can also work on a solution for more prison beds at the same time. Do you think that's doable?
Well, again, he is one individual. The board only has power if it acts as a board.
If the whole board came out and supported his letter, you think that would change things?
It won't change the law.
No, but could it change the atmosphere for collaboration?
I think following the law is critical.
Okay.
This is not a confusing area. It has been really rich to see the silence from a lot of people in the press on this FOIA issue. I am defending the FOIA for the people of Arkansas, and it's been just complete silence from people.
I'll go on the record as saying thank you for defending the FOIA law here.
That's what I was wanting.
But I still want an answer to my question.
I was wanting Roby.
Can you, as a leader in this debate, find a way to get people in a room to solve this problem?
Look, I'm happy to encourage people to get together. It's hard to take people seriously when they're violating the law.
Okay.
I understand what a letter to the public looks like. Yeah. The other thing I would say is, if you really want to get people in a room, you don't write a letter to the public in that way. You've been in this business long enough to know that there are things done for show and there are things done for real. And things done for real are usually done quietly.
I haven't seen anybody do anything for real on any side of this debate to try to resolve this prison bed problem.
You need to open your eyes, my brother. All
right, we got 60 seconds left here. Real quickly, I want to ask you, Asa Hutchinson drops out of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the Iowa caucus. We're on to New Hampshire now. Do you have any problem with Trump's comments about this? You know, he needs immunity to be president again? I mean, you've read some of these things that are out there.
Yeah, look, I'm all about the law. And following the law. And I didn't see all of what he says a lot. And let me just say this about our former governor. He has immense experience, and he knows a lot of people. He will do very well in the private sector. And I'm sure a lot of people will want his expertise.
Voting for Trump
on Homeland Security. I'm gonna let the primary finish out,
okay,
and you'll know when I endorse.
All right, Attorney General Tim Griffin.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, we're back with more right after this.